In 7th grade, I had my breakthrough moment at Breakthrough Camp. The message that Mario spoke about, shining your light. That year, my mom actually dedicated that word over my year as like a word of the year kind of thing for me. And when Mario spoke that message, it really made me like realize that that was coming from God and not just coming from his message. The message was about being a light to others, but also setting a good example of what a Christian is to other people. And since then, I've kind of lived by that, and I've always strived to be the best Christian and the best example of a Christian to my peers and like the people at my school, and even just in the community by just smiling at somebody, just being that light, that radiance that other people look forward to seeing.
Good morning, Airborne Church. So I'm so excited for what we have in store. We've got some incredible students and youth leaders here, and I don't know about you, but have you guys been enjoying Breakthrough Sunday so far? Yeah? Anybody get hit with a beach ball? Awesome, that's great. Welcome to youth. But no, it's so cool. We're going to introduce some of these amazing youth and youth leaders right now. This is Emily, my wife. You guys know her, right?
Hi.
Okay, cool. Hi, Emmy. We have Lexi Blair, one of our awesome youth leaders. We have Taryn Morris, one of our incredible youth students. Andrew Hurley, another incredible youth student. Taylor Tieford, one of our awesome leaders. Wyatt Mung, another leader that we have here. And then we have Pastor Kevin Green. He's one of our older students at youth. No, what an honor to have Pastor Kevin here with us on the panel this morning. Speaking of which, Pastor Kevin, I feel like what better way to open up this panel than to ask you something. What put it on your heart, Pastor Kevin, to start Breakthrough Camp in the first place?
Well, we've been doing this since the beginning of our church, and when God called me into the ministry, I knew there was two significant reasons why I was in the ministry. And number one, I had a praying mom. I had a mom that I listened to her pray many a nights for me, and knowing that God was calling me into the ministry and would specifically pray over that. And the second thing was my youth camp that I went to. My first youth camp that I went to, I was 9 years old. And after the message that night, they had an altar call. I came forward. They had benches all around by the stage and down front and behind the stage. And for some reason, I was backstage, and there was a bunch of us students that we were just praying. We were crying out to God. I was sitting on the bench, and I'm listening to other students pray, young people. I mean, we were 9, 10, and 11 years old. Mm-hmm. And I'm listening to them pray, and I'm like, I've never prayed like this before. And so being in that environment, I just began to pour my heart out to God and said, God, I want to experience you. I want to know you. I know about you, but I want to experience you. Yeah. And in that time, I got a vision of Jesus. It literally was a spiritual vision while I was praying, and I knew tears were coming down my face. I saw him walk forward to me, and he sat down beside me and just began talking to me. And I just kept pouring my heart out to him and just kept telling him, I want to know him. I want to know him more. And that night, or the next morning, they told me that I was there for like 2.5 hours, and they were waiting for me to get done so that they could go back to the bunk room, but they left 4 or 5 people just staying there with me. I don't remember anything else except for that experience of Jesus coming toward me and me telling him I want to know him better. And they carried me back. They put me on the bunk. I woke up the next morning, and I got to tell you, from that experience forward, I knew that I was going to serve Jesus the rest of my life. So I know how significant camp can be when young people get together and began to cry out to God and call on God for that experience of getting to know him better. Significant things happen. I was listening to Isaac during the offering, and he was saying, I've watched these students, and he knows because he was one of them, where he came in as a young fella, and then he becomes a youth leader. Now he's a young adult, and he's serving God. We've got families in our church. I mean, we've been doing this for 18 years. We got families with children that they started at youth camp, and that's where they got their breakthrough. We would never stop doing that. So that's really where that vision comes from, back when I was 9 years old, 48 years ago.
That's incredible. That was not very long ago.
And the other thing about that is what I think is cool over the last 18 years, that vision has been spreading even beyond our church.
Yes.
We've watched individuals get involved, send in checks and saying, hey, I hear what you're doing. I want to sponsor people. And this is from people that don't even go to our church. We've had businesses say they want to get behind us. Last year when we were restructuring our loan, interest rates were down. It was going to save us a lot of money. There was some banks that were in the running. And I tell you, one thing that really touched my heart when we were talking to BCT, and we were trying to get the best interest rate that we could, and we were so happy with what they provided to us. But they said on top of that, for the first 3 years of your loan, we want to give $3,500 a year toward your breakthrough camp. That's incredible.
Amazing.
And that really touched my heart. And Christy Hadley, she's a representative of BCT Bank. And so I asked her if she would just come and just say a few words that would represent the bank today, because we are so thankful.
So first, thank you, Pastor Kevin. BCT, when we look at partnering with different nonprofits, we look at the core values and how we can marry those up. And so one of our biggest core values at BCT is community focused, where we're investing back into the community. And when we walk through Airborne Church, it's to be a light in the city for future generations. So it's been a pleasure for us to sow into these individuals, because on a personal level, for the last 17 years, we've had the fortunate pleasure of sowing into these individuals personally, where we've watched them grow. We've watched, for example, Alec Collis. He's one that is a generation growing up, and we've employed Alec Collis, and he is an excellent employee at BCT. And the foundation that he started was here at Airborne Church, and he had his breakthrough at Breakthrough Camp. So it's a pleasure for us to be able to invest into this next generation.
Amazing. Thank you, Chrissy.
So Christy, camp is in 3 weeks. Make sure we get that check, okay?
All right. Can we make some noise
Chrissy.
for Chrissy?
You're such a blessing.
Awesome. That is cool. What a cool thought. You know what I mean? I mean, that investment into, it's like, if you think of the perspective, you could potentially be investing into like that rising generation that, who knows, they might work at the bank that you work with. They might work at the hospital that you work at. You just never know what these seeds and these investments can become. So guys, why don't you guys tell us, just open floor, tell us about your cabin experiences, because we do these things, we break out into cabins for the year, and you're in the same cabin with students for the whole duration of camp. So what has been your cabin experience at Breakthrough Camp, guys?
So I would like to say that I normally get the calm cabin.
Nice.
Because I need my beauty rest. But no, but I get the calm cabin, and every year I always have someone new or someone that I've never met before. And it's just a really cool experience to have those new people at camp, especially in your cabin. Like, you hear their background and you hear what they've been through, or you hear their story of why they came to Breakthrough Camp and why they're there. And it's so cool to hear those stories and just to meet those new people. And I don't know, it's just an amazing experience to have those new people in your cabin. So
awesome, Wyatt.
So I have the pleasure of being the leader of the middle school girls. So a lot of the times it is their first year coming to camp. And, watching them come here, they're so nervous and, they don't have any connections with other people most of the time. But whenever we get to camp, it's such a cool experience because they open up and they become their true selves. So it's just an honor to watch them. They become these, crazy girls who don't have a care in the world and they're just free-spirited. And when they come back, they use that free spirit into their schools, and then that's what's changing them. So Breakthrough, in reality, is a life-changing experience for those girls, and it starts right in our cabin where we become a family.
Amazing. And those middle school girls, they don't play games, man. They don't play games. Kennedy goes, nope, no, we don't. No, they don't, guys. It's wild. Like we really do have some incredible girls, middle school and high school. And fellas, we got to keep rising up, boys, all right? I'm looking at you guys, right? Yep. Awesome. What are some more cabin experiences for you guys?
For my cabin, I feel like it was a lot of friendship because it was my very first year and I hadn't really gone to youth that much with the people that I was in the cabin with. So I think the influence of them made me enjoy Breakthrough, and I really had my breakthrough at camp this year.
Amazing, Taryn. That's awesome. And if I may, go for it. On top of that, Taryn, I want to ask you another quick question with that. With it being your first year of camp, what was it that encouraged you to come to Breakthrough Camp? Like, what was it that stoked the fire and inspired you to join us?
Actually, it's my mom. So
thanks, Mom.
She talked about how much she enjoyed Breakthrough Camp when she went, and so she wanted to put me in that environment to see if I could flourish in this church.
That's incredible.
Beautiful.
See, I'm going to say something on that. And Mom and Dad, like, a lot of that, think about what kind of decision that can be on your end to just send your son or your daughter to camp. Probably from Taryn's perspective, she had no idea. She didn't know about it. She was like, I don't know, and maybe potentially had some hesitant mindset with it, right? But see, her mom was committed and persistent on saying, no, I know what that has done for me. I know what it's going to do for my kid. And so think about that, moms and dads. Like, you have that power and that authority to invest into your kids in a way that they might not even see for themselves. Thank you for sharing that, Taryn. And Lex, you had something about cabins.
Yeah, I was just gonna, that's loud now, sorry. I was just gonna say that going from student to leader, I remember having this kind of dialogue in my head, being like, God, how am I gonna be a sufficient enough leader for these students? Because I carried that weight so heavily, knowing how important my leaders were to me. Like, my leaders are pretty much like my family. Like, Emily was one of my leaders, Tori, Cammie, so many other amazing leaders. And I just remember asking God, how can I be that? And just being open to that. And I remember one year, Emmy and I had 21 girls in a cabin in the homestead. Shout out to the homestead. That was my first year as a leader. And it was awesome and more than I could ever describe. And then last year, actually, it happened to be that one of our awesome leaders up here, Taylor, couldn't go to camp. So we kind of switched cabins around at the last second. And what ended up being, I would have had, I think, like 9 to 10 girls. I think I had like 16, 17, 18 girls last year. And like, I'm just telling you, every time God just blows me away with how he connects us. And I just feel like I'm their older sister, and that I really never had that growing up, an older sister figure, but I feel like God put it on my heart to be that for these girls. And I think that's really special.
Awesome. I think that's really good too, Lex. Yeah, give it up for Lex. Because I think about it, when we assign cabins, it's not just placing people with a leader or placing a student with a student or whatever. This is so designed by God, and I know it is, because when we place these cabins, God is setting something up for that leader to reach out to this specific student, or these students to, experience something together. These cabins, they're designed by God. We know it because breakthrough happens, connections happen in these cabins that we're blown away. We're like, wow, God did that. God showed up and he did that. And it's such a good experience in our cabins for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely God in the middle of it when we're putting those cabins together, because that is, let me just tell you, it's not easy. So we need the Holy Spirit to move in those meetings. But I have a question for all of our leaders here. As a leader, why do you invest? Why do you invest into Breakthrough Camp? And we'll start on your end, Wyatt.
So I really invest for two reasons, actually. The first reason is, of course, it's for God.
Yeah.
You know, getting closer to Him, and of course, you know, just having that breakthrough experience. You know, and we don't call it breakthrough just because it's a fun name. No, you really have a breakthrough every single year.
Yes.
And my second reason is for these wonderful students down here. I mean, we have such an amazing group of students that their boldness and their courageousness this year is just mind-blowing. And as a first-year leader, it's just, I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to have have them, I can't wait to encourage them, and I can't wait for them to encourage me also as a youth leader. It's just one of those things where, oh my goodness,
It's awesome.
these kids are awesome.
They are.
So I so into camp also for multiple reasons. First being for these students. When they're in schools, you have no idea what they're learning. And, here recently I get a tad bit of what they are learning in school, and it is so important that they have a firm foundation knowing who they truly are as a child of God. So I so into that, making sure that they know who they are, and like Wyatt said, their boldness. That way they can go out and use the voice that God has gifted them to go out and speak into their schools to, bring others closer to God. But I also sow in to this generation as well for my kids whenever it is my time, because these kids are going to be the leaders to my children. So it is important that I instill what I have learned from my parents so they can instill it into my children.
So good.
I remember as a student, what really stuck out to me is that my grandmother actually invested in all of us grandchildren to go to camp. So that always was just so special that she would do that for us. And I see the fruit of her doing that, and I see the fruit of her prayers and her investment, not just in her children, my parents, not in just us, but in my kids one day and my brother's kids. It doesn't go void, and I just love that it's such a generational thing, and I see that in you guys, and that's why I invest my time on Sundays and really any time just to spend time with you guys, because it's important. And your future kids, your future grandkids, their lives are at stake, and we want to do everything that we can to just give you guys an opportunity to not just know Jesus, but to experience him, like Pastor Kevin was talking about. It's not just something where we do step by step, but it is a relationship with God, and I feel like Breakthrough Camp gives us that. So the investment, grandparents, if you're a grandparent, if you're a parent, stepmom, stepdad, whatever you are that has holds weight over a student's life, don't underestimate the impact. Don't underestimate any level of giving or investment you can make, because it makes all the difference. It makes an eternal difference.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'll say, with our leaders, it's the way they invest into your kids and into this church, it really is inspiring. They don't only invest their time and their effort, but I've even had youth leaders come up to me that are 19, 20 years old, come up to me and say, I want to send a kid to camp personally. Yeah. They say, I want to pay in full. Please let me send a kid to camp. And it always amazes me to say, wow, think about it. When you were potentially 19 years old, money's money, and it can get tight. So when I see a young person, a young leader say, I know what I want to sow into, I'm completely floored by that and inspired by that. So listen, when I tell you we've got the best leaders in the game, I'm not playing. Yeah. We got the best leaders in the game. We do. I stand by it. So let's ask another question. Andrew, I want you to kick us off with this. What is one of your favorite Breakthrough Camp memories?
So if most of you don't know what Tribal Wars is, Tribal Wars is it's kind of like Survivor, on TV. And so there's obstacle courses, there's mazes, all kinds of different stuff. And so one of the favorite memories I can think of is last year, it was Hercules versus Joker. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing everybody just going out and getting the Joker paint all over their face, mm-hmm. and just everybody getting really into it, just all crazy about it. And I love those memories of hanging out with all my high school boys, and we all were just really into that. It was awesome.
Awesome, Andrew. Yeah, we don't play games with Tribal Wars, do we, Andrew?
No, we do not.
Not even the slightest. I can't be on a tribe anymore. I have to be neutral because I get too competitive. So there's that. Anybody else? Anybody else have that spirit of it's probably better that I'm not on a tribe? Yeah. Amen. Come on. What else? What are some other great memories?
After service, we usually go to like a campfire or like something. We can make hot dogs or s'mores, whatever we do that night.
Yeah.
And I know we would like reflect on our service and talk about what we learned, and we just have like an emotional connection with the Lord and everybody in that group.
Beautiful, Taryn. Yeah, that is something special that we kind of knock out, is making sure that after services we break out and have conversations. We almost like dissect the message in a way that it's like helps our students understand what potentially was talked about and what took place. So I love to hear that answer, Taryn, because it's like it's important to have those moments.
I will say for me, I mean, this is kind of like a joined memory, but worship, oh my goodness. I mean, you might get a little taste of it this morning with our team leading, but can I tell you, the worship at camp is like, you can feel the presence of God in the room so tangibly. And I know I can speak for myself, I know everybody up here can say it, but until you experience that, I mean, there's really nothing like being around a group of your friends and everybody praising and worshiping. I just think every time, like, I wonder how God can top the year before, and he always exceeds it, and it's just amazing. So I just think that personal connection in the worship is just so significant.
Awesome. Anybody else got some memories they want to share? I got one. So I guess it's not necessarily a specific memory, but it's more so something that, like, I've had the opportunity to see not only in my life but in so many others, and that's just the fact that, like, I look at some of these incredible students, and to see like who they were, like I'll take the high schoolers for example, to see who they were when they were in 7th, 6th grade, and even some of them when they were just in 3rd or 2nd grade, and to see the individuals that they have become, that in itself, I know camp has planted a seed in that. This planted a seed in my life. It's planted a seed in some of the closest people in my world's lives. And I remember specifically, we talked about worship. There was a night where, and I kid you not, we actually were just joking about it this morning during rehearsal, but there was, I think it would have been my first breakthrough camp, right, Nikki? It had been our first breakthrough camp that You Won't Relent happened. Yeah. So we had this song called, it's like You Won't Relent, or I don't know. I don't even remember what it's called, but I just know we sang You Won't Relent for like probably 3.5 hours. I'm not even kidding. Like, me saying 6 hours would be, all right, Mario's exaggerating, but me saying 3.5, no, there's no exaggeration there. I promise. But we were in the middle of worship, just like that with a song, and just to see, and it wasn't one of those things where there was someone at camp that was like, okay, I'm ready this for the end. No, the reason, like, I think I was on team. We kept going because the students wouldn't stop. Like they were hungry for that worship. They were hungry for that power. So we just let the Holy Spirit move, and it was amazing. Like, that's one of the memories that we'll never forget. But let's go with this. If you can sum up camp, even though I know it could be difficult, but if you can sum up Breakthrough in one word, what would that word be?
I definitely had a word come to mind, and the feeling is just home. And I always like to say that home is not a place, it's a feeling. And I feel like when we get to Breakthrough Camp, these kids just feel at home, and they don't have to be anything, they don't have to do anything. They just get to be in the presence of God, be what they've been called to be. They don't have any pressures. They're away from all the distractions back home, and it really is their home away from home. It doesn't matter. It's not a specific location, but being surrounded by their friends, around leaders who love them, and just in God's presence, it allows you to be open in a way that you really can't in any other setting. So that's just what I feel, is that it is a home. I mean, it's the best way I can describe it.
It's beautiful.
When I took a lot of time to think about this, and the word metaphoric came to my mind, and what that means is the state of change in a particular form. So where it may not be happening physically, spiritually there is a lot of a shifting. when we get to camp. There's this fire that is ignited whenever they get to camp, and they bring that home with them. Not one student or leader leaves here and comes home the same. Everybody comes in here different, and not only in their relationship with Christ, but in their friendships as well. There's just something that happens. There's a shift. We are away from the world, and we actually get to focus on our friendship, and we get to focus on our relationship, and every student brings that home with them.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I would describe it as like family, because you make the connections with people, you learn to like love them and create this like beautiful bond with all of them, and I just think it's so important for everybody.
Awesome, Taryn. Great. Fellas? They're hesitant.
Well, Taylor kind of took mine, but I was going to use a different word, transformative.
Yes.
I mean, it's breakthrough camp. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but it's a breakthrough. And for me personally, I've had mine. Back in 8th grade, it was a big thing with like my anxiety. I could barely do anything without having any kind of anxious thoughts, and it really was transformative for me. It was really, like
Metaphoric
that cocoon,
experience.
Metaphoric, yeah, and just life changing.
Beautiful.
It really just a flip of a switch. It was just like this is who I'm meant to be type of thing.
Beautiful.
I would definitely say powerful comes to mind, because just of all the messages and the powerful worship, the campfire talks, just everything just really hits home for powerful. Just
Awesome, Andrew. With camp coming up, with camp just right around the corner, you guys, what's something, because it is right around the corner, June 6th through the 9th, it's not far away now, but what's something that you're believing for yourself or just in general for camp this year? What's something that you're believing for?
I'm really believing for God to speak to me in a specific way of how he wants to continue to use me, whether that would be where I currently am, or am I supposed to be stepping out of my comfort zone. I fully want to just give this year up to God and just to be his hands and feet, and for him to take me to the places and bring the people that I need to speak into this year.
Beautiful.
I think this year he will talk about growth, like growing as a person, growing your friendship, growing with your family, like everything. I think it'll be a beautiful experience.
Awesome, Taryn.
I definitely think, I love how we have themes for camp, and last year was Open Heaven, and I think last year was kind of almost setting the bar for our students. We were opening heaven just for what God was going to pour out, and I'm believing and I'm knowing that God this year is going to bring us closer to him in a way that we've not experienced before. It may not look like what it has before, it may not feel like what it has before, but that's exactly what God intends for it to be. And I'm just so expectant to see what that is, because like I said, I love how every year does have a theme. I remember one year it was away from the noise, and we've had one that is breathe. And I know for me, like that year specifically spoke to me, because I was walking through a season where just breathing kind of felt hard to do sometimes just because of the circumstances. But I'm really believing this year, every student, every leader, even our youth pastors, and even the people who don't come to camp are going to be affected by what goes down at Breakthrough Camp, June 6th through the 9th. So just be ready and be open for that, because God's waiting for you to ask him, hey, what is there for me? And I pray that all of you students would start to ask that question, God, what do you have for me this year? And parents, be praying for your students. What does God have for them this year? Because those prayers don't go void.
So good, Lexi. So good.
I think for me, it's a new leadership for me. I've kind of been in like a place of just like, okay, I'm here, I'm doing what I need to do, and then I just stick to it. So I really feel like at Breakthrough Camp, God's going to change my leadership into a different way, and not only for on Sunday nights and stuff, but also Sunday mornings, and what I could do in the community, and also for my future. As I'm going to a new season of things. It's one of those. So I think leadership is a big thing.
Beautiful. What about you, Andrew? Do you have something that you're believing for this year?
Well, as I'm nearing the end of my high school days and I'm becoming a senior, I've just been believing for God to give me vision for what I want to do in my career, and just guiding me through life, give me vision and wisdom and anything I could really use for guidance.
Beautiful. That's awesome, Andrew. And I can tell you guys this. I mean, what an incredible group of people that we have up here. But it's like, you know, as it has been mentioned already, the theme for camp this year, it is closer. And the heart behind that is we just know God is going to do something fresh in our youth ministry. And when I say youth ministry, I'm talking about every aspect of it, the students, the leaders, just every bit of it. And I just know that this year is going to be a year that we take the deepest step towards our relationships and our connections with God that we have yet to do. And like we've heard here how many years some of us individuals have been at camp. And so with the years, if you add all those years together, I'm believing that this year, of all the years that you can think of combined, we're going to see the deepest connection with the Father. And so we're just believing for that, and we know that this year is going to come with a bunch of fresh, new things. The experience of a new place that we've been to. We've gone to a particular camp for many years, and now we're going to a brand new camp, which is exciting. And I mean, Pastor Kevin, we've got some awesome buses that we have now that we're so excited to have those that are just phenomenal things. There's so much freshness and newness that is falling over camp this year, and we really don't want anyone to miss out on that. So we really want to speak to those students or maybe those parents right now that are on the edge of well, I don't know if my student can make it, or even for that particular student, well, I don't know, I feel like I could be nervous. Like let go and let God. Allow him to work in through that decision. Allow him to lead you in that. I just know for a fact that God's going to do something fresh and different at camp this year that's going to invest into the already world-changing students and leaders that we have.
And Mario, while you're talking about that right now, I want to encourage all of our young people, because every year we talk about the evangelism aspect of it. And our young people are some of our best evangelists in the church. Mm-hmm. And so just be thinking of this over the next couple of weeks. Talk to that friend of yours that you want to come. If finances is an issue, come talk to us. Yeah. This is why our church gets behind this, and we're going to be doing that in just a minute. But talk to your friend. Invite them to Breakthrough Camp. I promise you it will change their lives. So I want every young person that is already going to youth camp, I want you to think of one name, one person that you could invite and get them to come. Tell them everything you got to tell them. I mean, it's going to be an amazing time, a great time, but we know what's on the horizon for that friend of yours is a breakthrough.
Absolutely. And Pastor Kevin, with that, to kind of close out the panel, is there anything in particular you want to share and speak to this?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, our church, over all the years that we've been doing youth camp, has significantly got behind Breakthrough Camp. And one of the things that we read in Genesis is that seed time and harvest will always remain. No matter what happens in the earth, no matter what's going on in the current day that we are in, and we see the season we have just come out of. Seasons change, but the Bible tells us there's one thing that never changes, and that is seed time and harvest. You look at this church today, and we began with the whole idea and vision around this church was building for future generations. I believe that is the reason why our church is so significant today and has so much strength and so much Spirit of God in it, because that is the heart of God, building for future generations. The scripture tells us that We've got to be responsible for 2 generations, your children and your children's children. And so we want to be responsible as a church today. You know, over the last several years, we usually do this dinner and we have this auction. And over the last couple of years, I've just said, we're not going to do that. We'll just get our church behind it. Maybe we'll bring it back next year. And we're going to do it a little bit different. Mario and Emmy and I, we've been talking about that. But for this year, we want to get behind our students going to camp. There's a lot of expenses that are there, you know, beyond the $200. I think it's $200 to go to camp, which is another breakthrough in cost. That's come down. We're at a new camp this year. It's an exciting camp. It really is. It's fantastic. But we know that there's a lot of expenses that goes on above that $200 to make camp happen. And so we really need our church to get behind that. And then the other part is the part that is on my heart is helping these young people pay for their friends that they want to bring. We'll let them do the evangelism. We'll get behind them with the finances. And so I know that over the next, this happens every year. It's like in the last couple of weeks, you know, we'll pick up another, 20, 30 students that are going to camp. And so we want to get behind that as well. And so I believe that everything that you sow, seed time and harvest, there is a harvest that comes from the seed that we sow. So as we go out today, we have ushers at the back, and they have the buckets there, and we're going to be asking you to sow into that. If you want to talk to Mario and Emmy and talk to them about sponsorship, or if you just want to put it in the bucket on the way out, it's $200. Maybe you can only do part of that. That's totally fine. But I also want to say thank you to all the businesses in our church, BCT, businesses outside of our church that love to become part of sowing into future generations.